He smiled at his neighbors. He waved every morning. If you passed him on the street, you might not even remember his face 5 minutes later. There was nothing unusual about him. Nothing that stood out. Nothing that warned you. And that was the problem. Because behind the walls of his home, something unthinkable was hidden. And when police finally stepped inside, they uncovered a secret that would shock everyone who heard about it. This is the story of a man no one suspected, a quiet life hiding something dark. For years, everything about him seemed normal. No loud arguments. No strange visitors. No complaints. No police reports. No reason for anyone to think twice. He lived alone in a quiet neighborhood where nothing ever really happened. The kind of place where people left their doors unlocked and waved at each other without fear. The kind of place where danger felt far away. And yet it wasn't. He kept to himself. Not in a rude way, just distant. Polite when spoken to, but never one to start conversations. He followed a routine. Morning walks. Short trips to the store. Evenings spent inside. Predictable. Quiet. Invisible. Neighbors describe him in simple terms. Quiet. Respectful. A little odd maybe, but nothing concerning. Just another person trying to live their life. The kind of person you never question. The kind of person you never suspect. And maybe that's what made him so dangerous. Because sometimes, the most dangerous people aren't the loud ones or the obvious ones. Sometimes they're the ones who blend in so perfectly that they disappear into the background of everyday life. Everything continued like this for a long time. Days turned into months. Months turned into years. Nothing changed. Until something small did. At first, it didn't seem important. A smell. Faint. Easy to ignore. The kind of thing you notice for a moment, and then forget. One neighbor thought it was garbage that hadn't been taken out. Another assumed it was a drainage issue. Something minor. Something temporary. But it didn't go away. It lingered. And over time, it got worse. Stronger. Heavier. Harder to ignore. People started noticing it more often. Passing by the house, they would wrinkle their noses, glance around, and move on quickly. No one wanted to think too much about it. Because thinking about it meant asking questions. And asking questions meant confronting the possibility that something wasn't right. Still, most people chose to ignore it. Until one person couldn't. They noticed the smell every single day. It seemed to be coming from the same place. The same house. His house. At first, they hesitated. It felt wrong to accuse someone without proof. Wrong to make a big deal out of something that might be nothing. But the smell kept getting worse. And eventually, they made the call. When officers arrived, they weren't expecting anything serious. Calls like this happened all the time. Usually, it was a dead animal, a plumbing issue, or something harmless that just needed attention. They stepped out of their vehicle and approached the house casually. But as they got closer, something changed. They smelled it. And immediately, they knew this wasn't normal. The odor was strong. Overwhelming. The kind of smell that made your stomach turn before your mind could even process it. It wasn't garbage. It wasn't plumbing. It was something else. Something far worse. They walked up to the door and knocked. No answer. They waited a moment and knocked again. Still nothing. They looked at each other, silently acknowledging that something wasn't right. At this point, it wasn't just a welfare check anymore. It was something more serious. They tried calling out, announcing themselves, hoping for any kind of response. Nothing. The house remained silent. And that silence felt wrong. After a brief discussion, they made a decision. They were going inside. The door opened slowly. The moment it did, the smell hit them even harder. It filled the air completely, thick and unmistakable. Inside, the house was dark. Curtains were drawn. Light barely made it through. Everything felt still, like time had stopped inside those walls. They stepped in carefully, their movements slow and deliberate. Flashlights cut through the darkness, revealing pieces of the interior one section at a time. At first, nothing seemed completely out of place. But then, small details started to appear. Things that didn't quite make sense. Objects that felt wrong. The deeper they moved into the house, the heavier the atmosphere became. There was a feeling in the air. Something you couldn't see, but you could feel. Something that told you that you weren't supposed to be there. And then they saw it. The moment everything changed. What they found confirmed their worst fears. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't something simple. This was something deliberate. Something hidden. Something that had been kept secret for a long time. The investigation that followed revealed more than anyone expected. What started as a single concern quickly turned into something much larger. As officers searched the house, they began to piece together a timeline. Patterns started to form. This wasn't a one-time incident. It had been happening for a long time. Carefully planned.
And then they saw it. The moment everything changed. What they found confirmed their worst fears. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't something simple. This was something deliberate. Something hidden. Something that had been kept secret for a long time. The investigation that followed revealed more than anyone expected. What started as a single concern quickly turned into something much larger. As officers searched the house, they began to piece together a timeline. Patterns started to form. This wasn't a one-time incident. It had been happening for a long time. Carefully planned. Carefully hidden. The man everyone thought they knew had been living a completely different life behind closed doors. A life no one had ever seen. A life no one had ever imagined. The more investigators uncovered, the more disturbing the truth became. Every detail added another layer to the story. Every discovery made it harder to believe that no one had noticed anything sooner. But that's how it happens sometimes. When someone blends imperfectly, when they follow routines, when they avoid attention, they become invisible. And when someone is invisible, they can hide almost anything. Neighbors struggled to process what had happened. The person they waved to. The person they saw almost every day. The person they never thought twice about. Was not who they thought he was. And that realization is what stayed with them the most. Because it meant that something like this could happen anywhere. On any street. Behind any door. The investigation continued, uncovering more details, more evidence, more truth. Each piece adding to a story that was already difficult to comprehend. And at the center of it all was the same question. How could someone live like this for so long without anyone noticing? The answer wasn't simple. But it was clear. He didn't stand out. He didn't draw attention. He didn't give anyone a reason to look closer. And that's what allowed everything to stay hidden. Until it couldn't anymore. There were small details that, in hindsight, seemed important. Things no one paid attention to at the time. Moments that felt ordinary but weren't. Some neighbors later recalled how the curtains in his house were always closed, day or night. At the time, it didn't seem strange. Others remembered how he avoided longer conversations, always finding a way to leave. Not suspicious, just distant. But together, those details formed a pattern no one saw until it was too late.